That's what will happen.
So what would be your word, single word, to describe Peter Dutton's campaign?
Solid.
Solid. Okay.
All right.
That's where we're up to.
Okay, well, we are approaching 8 o'clock Eastern time, and that means the polls are about to close in the West, and we'll start to see some of those early numbers come through. Will Labor hold the seats it won at the last election? What about the new seat of Bullwinkle and Kate Chaney's seat of Curtin? Stay with us. You're watching Australia Votes live from the ABC Election Centre. I'm David Spears.
And I'm Sarah Ferguson. Let's get the latest on the count with Anthony Green.
Yes, well, at the moment, can't bring up any graphics. We currently got a sort of an Amazon server problem, so we actually haven't had any updates for a while. But the current, just looking elsewhere, currently there's about 13.7% of the vote counted. The swing is a bit lower than the one I was showing earlier. It's about, it's currently projecting to the Labor Party on about 54.8, which is about 0.7 lower than the projection I had earlier. That's because that count I'm using is much more progressed. But at the moment, we're chasing down Jeff Bezos or somebody at Amazon to try and find out what's going on. But yeah, there's nothing that I'm seeing on other sources of figures that are suggesting anything other than the picture we're painting earlier, though it is still patchy.
All right. Yes, okay. Other servers are available, and perhaps we wish we had one tonight right now. But anyway,
can I just check?
Those numbers come back.
We did see Franklin come back a bit for Labor, so that's...
Yes, yeah, and look, it's that's looking a little better for Labor. I don't know if the seat of Bean in the ACT's come back at all for Labor based on those early numbers.
No, it was... it got to a higher count and was still looking like a really significant swing towards the independent there. On more than 5% counted, significantly more. I mean, I think there's a possibility here, allowing for the buffering that's going on around us, for there to be a significant new entrance of independents.
Yeah, sure. Andy.
Currently, the Labor Party's on 30. I don't know the percentage counted because the Electoral Commission no longer publishes percentage counted on their website for reasons to do with, it's a long story. The Labor Party's on 37%, Peter George is on 24%, and the Liberal Party's on 17%, and that's with 27,000 votes counted, which would be about a third of the vote.
All right, we're back in Tasmania.
Yeah. Yes.
So at this stage, on those numbers, if that trend continues, Labor would hold Franklin.
Right.
The Electoral Commission stopped counting preferences in that electorate because they believe that Peter George will be one of the final pairing. Yeah. But on the numbers, primary votes I'm looking here at the moment, he's not good enough to win because the Liberal Party did issue a how to vote card indicating preferences to the Labor Party.
Anthony, can I just ask you about that seat in Brisbane, the seat of Ryan that we were asking Adam Bant about earlier, but does it look like the Libs have pushed themselves into second position there?
You'll have to give me a moment because I have to sort of navigate the Electoral Commission's website for the moment. At the moment, in that seat, the Greens are on 31, Labor's on 30, and the LNP's on 29. It's a three-way tie between those candidates at the moment. So it would come down to who finishes third.
Yeah, okay. Well, and that's been the interesting thing in Brisbane based on the early numbers that we had. It's that LNP dropping into third, which is going to knock the Greens out of contention.
Yeah, I thought they'd bounced up to second, but let's wait and see.
That will be a devastating result for the Greens. They've put a lot of resources into those seats, and it's been part of their longer-term strategy to try and get more lower house seats. So
this is one of the vagaries of these preferential three-way situations. Sometimes the position to be in is to be number two when the party that's being eliminated is going to support you more than the number one, right? That's the come from behind situation.
Can you set that onto music?
I could give it a naughty calypso rhythm for you if you like. So, I mean, it's kind of a bitter pill, I imagine, for the Greens to find themselves in a situation where the LNP candidate is third and then pushes Labor over the line because they're preferencing away from the Greens.
I mean, that's how they won last time, though. The Labor candidate elected the Greens MPs in Griffith, Ryan and Brisbane.
I'm not claiming a moral failure here. I'm just
but
explaining how it works, because we talk about these preferences a lot.
In relation to Ryan, we expect to come first. On primaries.
Okay.
So we think the magical word for those who are playing pre-poll bingo at home in terms of having a sip each time, they're under the table now. Pre-poll figures will put the LNP first.
I'm glad we're not playing that game right now on this table. What do you make as a campaigner, James McGrath, of the Greens and the campaign they've run this time?
The Greens are horrible. The Greens are a nasty, horrible, racist, anti-Semitic party, and when you deal with them on pre-poll, they are just horrible people. I would happily take the Labor Party and, with all due respect, union thugs any day of the week compared to the Greens. They are horrible people.
Tell us what
they are
really
nasty.
Yep.
The things they were saying to Maggie Forrest in Ryan are just appalling. Things they were saying to Trevor Evans in Brisbane were just appalling. Because they don't believe that we have a right to express our views as Conservatives, they try to deplatform us and don't accept that we do have that different view. And I think how the Greens campaign, it is the ugly side of politics in Australia. They steal signs all the time, they deface signs, they are a horrible political movement.
I think the core flute war, there's been some very bodgy tactics across the board in all sorts of different electorates we've seen. There's too many of them to list now. I think the patterns that we're looking for here is, is the other Greens going to be in a position to add to their stock of lower house seats, which of course, of which they had hardly any until recently in this country's history. So
the Greens
how they're going to go in Richmond, that's another seat that they've been looking at.
Wills.
And Wills, don't know yet.
No, we don't. We'll see the data on that. We can see the votes being counted, though, at Bibra Lake there in WA. The polls having closed there just in the last 5 or 6 minutes. So that count is happening, and we'll bring you those results as soon as we can from Western Australia as well.
But let me just ask you, Jim Chalmers, about that.
And I'm strongly support Peter Dutton. Peter has done a good job keeping us together.
Is that based on conversations with your colleagues about that? Have you actually talked about that?
Well, no, because no one's actually talking about it because we've been focusing on Labor.
So how do you know?
I've been in politics a long time. You don't get to look like this by not being
But explain to us this reading of people without talking
because
about
we've been focused on the Labor Party and focused on the Greens and focused on the Teals.
Sorry, I'm just keen to answer a question on this. You're reading people and you're confident that no matter what, they'll stick with Dutton.
Totally.
But you've never had a conversation with them, and you don't think you should have a conversation.
There's no need to have conversations because the party room for 3 years has been so strongly behind Peter and will continue to be behind Peter. He's kept us together. And I just, having these types of conversations, I don't think is helpful while the votes are still coming in. At
Sorry, Jim Chalmers, hold that. Anthony Green's got something important for us.
I'm not sure it's important. I can't see how the coalition wins from here.
That sounds important.
Well, that does sound important.
Is bad for them.
Don't let me interrupt you, Anthony.
Is that they've just gone backwards everywhere. I can't see, it is bad news everywhere for them. There's seats all over the country, all over the eastern states they're losing and they're behind in. No, they need to get 19 seats for majority government. They need to gain 10 seats for Labor. They're currently in the process of losing 12 to 15. The trend is all the wrong way. And I am a bit limited in the amount of data I can see at the moment, but it is impossible to see how this turns around. This isn't necessary. At the moment, it's a bit hard to work this out. Let's just say that. I can't see how the coalition wins from here. Now, does that mean the Albanese government is won? Well, yes, it's a binary contest. Have they got majority or minority? On these figures, they are going to have a substantially increased majority.
So you are categorically ruling out anything other than a minority or majority government for Anthony Albanese tonight?
Probably. I'm a bit hindered. Look, I can't see how the coalition gets into government from the numbers we're seeing at the moment. Therefore, the coalition can't form government. Therefore, Labor will form government in the next parliament. So you're helping me form my words by asking
You heard what James McGrath said. He thinks the pre-poll is going to perform a miracle.
On. Just to be clear, you're saying Labor has won? Either in a minority or a majority government.
For pre-poll to turn around from here, they'd have to have a lot of loaves and fishes, I think. It's a big swing that's on at the moment. I can't see how it turns around. Now, I'll put the caveat on, I'm a bit limited by the numbers, but it's just, This could be a big win for Labor, but it's certainly a win.
It's certainly
That's
a win for Labor. I think we can take that as Anthony calling it as a win of some sort for Labor tonight. And look, this will be the final call that Anthony makes, and he might firm up that call as to whether it's a minority or a majority. This is his last night with us as our chief elections analyst. But that would make... But that would also make it, for Anthony Albanese, the first Prime Minister to win back-to-back elections in more than 20 years. He has taken Labor from being behind in the polls before the campaign began to now being in this position where he has won either in a minority or a majority government. And that's despite the frustrations of voters over cost of living and all these issues that we've seen over the last 3 years. And we can see someone with the Anthony Green T-shirt there celebrating that call from Anthony Green just now. That would be at the Labor headquarters tonight, and they'd be celebrating that moment from Anthony Green there. Jim Chalmers, congratulations to you.
Oh, thank you. Can I pay tribute to the Prime Minister again? The way that he has led our team in these circumstances has been nothing short of phenomenal. And the fact that we are at 8:30 on election night, and Anthony is pointing out that Peter Dutton will not be the next Prime Minister, with still an element of uncertainty around seats and majority and minority. The fact that we're in this position at 8:30 on election night is a tribute to Anthony Albanese. And I think his campaign has been extraordinary. It has been phenomenal. He has dragged us back from a difficult position to what looks like it will be a winning position, and he deserves the credit for that, and I congratulate him.
And we're looking at some pictures here from Labor HQ with the breaking news: Anthony Albanese returned as Prime Minister. Labor wins government. Looks like they're waiting for someone to appear, possibly from the back of the room.
I think they're listening to you right now, Sarah, and shout out to those in the Labor crowd, because this news has just broken. And look, first-term governments, we know, for nearly 100 years have been returned, but we have seen a lot of difficulty for this government over the last 3 years, as I mentioned, through the inflation problems that they've faced. The polling did show them behind. Things started to turn before the campaign began. The campaign has been, as many have noted, a textbook one for Labor. It is pretty clear now that they have won the campaign and they have won this election. We don't yet know whether this will be a minority or a majority government. All the numbers so far are in Labor's favour. This will begin a lot of soul searching for the coalition. James McGrath, I assume you're still going to stick to the line of waiting for the pre-poll numbers?
A number of seats, we won't know the results tonight or next week, or we'll have to wait till week 2. But if it continues in this trend, then it's very difficult for us to form government. And the party will need to take a good hard look at itself. We will do that in the normal fashion. I'm not going to do it live on the ABC.
That's fine.
A lot of my people across the country, I should say my people, a lot of party supporters and members will be hurting at this. They've done a lot of work for their candidates, and we will need to take the coming days and weeks and months to look at what we need to do to make sure we do our return to power.
Well, indeed, whether you're going to have Peter Dutton in the mix, I've just heard a senior Labor source tell me that their reports are from Dixon. The pre-poll vote in Dixon are moving to leaning Labor. That's the pre-poll. So Peter Dutton on the day votes have broken Labor's way, and now the pre-poll votes, I'm told, are also leaning Labor. So Peter Dutton's future in the Parliament is right now in real trouble.
So the argument that we were having earlier about the party room's opinion may be completely
made up for them by the voters, the electorate.
So, let me remind everybody that in the Canadian election that we just saw, you saw a Conservative leader riding high in the polls, struck amidships by Donald Trump, and an amazing turnaround that involved the leader, Pierre Poilievre, losing his seat.
Yeah. And a few days later, here we are with a similar result. It looks like. Laura, let me get your thoughts on this. I'm not saying he's lost the seat of Dixon, but all the signs are pointing to him right now, losing that seat of Dixon.
They are all pointing to him losing that seat. And I think more significantly, David, this is an opposition that was essentially an LNP opposition more than anything else. I mean, Queensland was the heartland of the opposition.
And they've never had a leader from Queensland.
before.
They haven't, and it was, it was very much an LNP operation, if you like. And their losses in Queensland, I think, their likely potential losses in Queensland at the moment are staggering. Labor is leading in a lot of seats that weren't really sort of
Petrie.
which we just haven't been talking about. So to lose, and particularly, I suppose, Queensland is a resources state. This should be a state that the coalition is really sort of bolstered in for that reason. Now, I'll be very interested to see what happens in Western Australia, but I'm quite shocked by the extent of the likely.
Well, whatever happens in WA, if Labor Jim Chalmers is gaining those seats in Queensland like Leichhardt, Bonner and maybe Dixon, the Tasmanian seats we were talking about earlier as well, you may not be sweating on those WA seats as much.
Yeah, well, the one that's really leapt out at me as I sort of rudely interjected on Laura a moment ago is Petrie is a huge, huge surprise for us.
That's Liv Howard's seat.
55% of the vote is counted. We've got a 5.5 point lead in Petrie. And Emma Comer's an amazing person, but I don't think a lot of us had Petrie bookmarked tonight. And so I think that gives you a bit of a sense of the broader range of possibilities for us. I just wanted to say something about the Liberal leadership. I don't pretend, obviously, to be an expert on that, and I don't intend to dance on Peter Dutton's grave. I think the big missing part of this story we're talking about tonight is Angus Taylor. And so many of the issues that the Liberal Party campaign had can be traced back to Angus. And so I think we need to be careful as we go through this result, cautiously and conservatively as we continue to do. Obviously, Peter Dutton did not have a good campaign, but the main alternative, Angus Taylor, arguably had a campaign which was at least as bad, if not worse.
I just want to bring James McGrath in there. It's a big call to say that Angus Taylor has to carry a large part of this loss, isn't it?
I think we're all getting ahead of ourselves. Looking at the figures in relation to Petrie and a number of the seats in Queensland, the pre-poll figures are still coming in. The seat of Dixon is obviously very, very tight, but a number of these other seats, those pre-poll figures are still coming in. So I think we just need to still be calm in relation to where these seats are going to end up.
All right. Well, so we can talk about the campaign that Anthony Albanese's run, and I think we should spend a little bit more of a moment on what's just happened, because it happened in a quiet way in that moment. So I just want to stay with the campaign and the achievement of the Prime Minister at the moment. Okay, I think Anthony's going to have... Actually, hold that thought. He's back. He's got some figures. He's a very happy man.
He's back.
Oh, we have figures. We kicked off the backup system we normally use as a test system, and we're now using the main one. We've got just under 21% of the vote count. We're still projecting Labor 35, the Coalition 31, the Greens 12.9, others are 11.8. The change in primary vote that's occurring, 2.7, 4.6 down for the Coalition, and the two-party preferred swing is 3.9%. Now remember this, I was saying that that's a projection. The current figure is 57.6. We're projecting it will come down to 56.
Still huge.
Now, if the Coalition do better on pre-poll, it might come down to 55. It may get down to 54, but it's not going to get down to 53 or 52 on those numbers. So this is has all the potential to be a substantial victory for the Labor Party. And what I'll do is I'll draw the chart. Look, it is 20%, so I won't go too far into this. But we're pretty confident that Labor is definitely we've got the 176. That was the first time I've looked at it, I must admit, for a while.
That's a majority for those driving at home.
So, look, just because we haven't looked at these figures for a while, that's a pretty... I mean, as I said a few minutes ago, when I didn't have the figures right in front of me, the Coalition is not winning from there. They're not winning from 34 seats at this stage when the Labor's ahead in 76. Say you turned around 15 seats, that still gets the Coalition to 50, 50, maybe 60, but that's a long way behind at this stage. Again, we'll say 22.8. Let's look at that primary vote again at the moment. It's been pretty stable like that for a while. Those numbers will start to shift. If you remember the Queensland election, they were pretty sort of level pegging or Labor slightly behind before they moved. At this stage, Labor's substantially ahead before that shift occurs.
That would be the lowest coalition primary vote ever.
Yes.
It may come up a little once the pre-poll comes in.
Do this as well? This is changing. I've just had I haven't been through every one of these seats to double check. Where we've got Banks where the Labor Party's ahead, Bass, Independents gaining Bean. I haven't looked at the numbers there, but Labor's holding Bennelong, winning Bennelong, gaining Bonner, Braddon, Brisbane. There's a whole page there. It's all red.
So you're knocking out David Coleman, the shadow foreign minister, gone. Bridget Archer in Bass as well.
Michael Sukkar.
That's because you haven't looked.
No.
They are struggling to hold on. And if they're struggling to hold the seats they hold, they're not winning the election.
Yeah, and they're losing both front benches, but also emerging talent, as well as perhaps their leader as well.
Yes.
But Jim Chalmers, just back to you for a moment, because you started talking about the tribute that you wanted to pay to the Prime Minister a month before the campaign. He put healthcare at the centre of the campaign to come. He put women at the centre of the campaign to come. How important a decision was that in this result?
Yeah, and the cost of living. We decided that to win the election, we would go through that rather than around that, the cost of living. I think the biggest reason for our what looks like a very good result tonight is Anthony's leadership. I think second is that we won the argument over the economy, particularly the cost of living. And I think those two things together are responsible for this outcome tonight. Again, not wanting to dance on anybody's political grave, but clearly the leadership contest, the one-on-one leadership contest in what is a relatively presidential system was decisive. And if you look at all of those polls, the opposition leaders' numbers tracked down substantially over the life of the campaign. The more that they saw of him, the less that they wanted to support him. And that's a relative judgment that people are making.
Can I just tease out what you're saying there about the importance of Anthony Albanese's leadership in this win? And he is the first leader, as I mentioned, in more than 20 years to do this, win back-to-back elections.
Yeah.
Does this bestow him with greater authority as a leader now in the party? And how does that change the dynamics of a second-term Albanese government?
Well, I think he had extraordinary authority before. And I think one of the defining characteristics of our government is Anthony sets a tone of being an inclusive leader, and we all enjoy working in that context. We like working in that system. There's probably never been a better time to be a senior minister in a cabinet than with a leader like Anthony. But he has led from the front. And when things were looking dicey towards the end of last year, the way that he came out of the blocks, into Gympie, making the big announcement on the Bruce Highway, that rolling kind of campaigning really from the first week of January, I think in 10 or 20 years' time, they will be writing about this Albanese effort.
So for those who
campaign.
wonder whether he should serve a full second term and contest a third election, or whether someone like you should take over at some point during this term, what would you say tonight?
Well, my expectation is that if we get the result that Anthony's expecting tonight, that he'll serve a full term and run again. That's my expectation. That's my hope.
That?
I would back that absolutely, 100%. And I think we make an effective team, and not just Anthony and I, but the cabinet, the whole party room. I would defy you to find a more unified government that enjoys more working with each other than our government, particularly our cabinet. Whether it's Katie Gallagher and myself, the way that the senior leaders cohere, really right through the cabinet. This is a very effective cabinet government. That's a deliberate choice made by Anthony Albanese. I expect him to go the whole way and run again, and that'd be a good thing.
Right, I think we're going to go to Anthony Green for some breaking news right now.
Well, the story at the moment is the opposition leaders seated of Dixon. At this stage, Peter Dutton is on track to lose his seat. Now, I think I can, let me see, I think they've got the seat ready for me. Dixon, 32% of the vote counted. Now, this is basically nearly all of the on-the-day votes. Labor's ahead on 34, Peter Dutton's on 30. The independent Ellie Smith is on 13. The Greens are on 8.6. Now, we haven't got as many preference counts in, and I'll just show that. It's a 9.2% swing. I took the preferences that we've got from those 23 polling places, applied it to the larger number that we got primaries for, and it turns out that the swing is about 10% still. There is about 70% of preferences flowing to the Labor Party. I think that independent, every time you get an independent on the seat, you get this strong flow of preferences. But at this stage, we're saying that that Ali France at her third attempt should go on to win that seat, and Peter Dutton is I'm naturally cautious, almost certain to lose. But we've called it. We believe that Ali France will win Dixon.
All right, there you go. Anthony Green's called it.
James McGrath, a massive repudiation of the leader. Your response?
I think let's wait for the figures to come in. We respect Anthony Green. The seat of Dixon is a tough seat. It's always been a tough seat. As Anthony Green said, this is on the day figures. We need to get the pre-poll figures.
It's a repudiation nonetheless.
But this seat's always been a very tough seat for Peter Dutton and for the Liberal National Party and the former Liberal Party.
But
remember that he did hold it by less than 100 votes before the 2007 election.
You know politics. This is your life. This is your career. You're a master of reading numbers. You look at those numbers and you honestly think Peter Dutton can still win?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. But what I've learned in politics is wait till the numbers come in. And Jim has pointed this out, and other people have pointed it out. We've got to wait till the numbers come in. It will be tough for him to hold it. It'll be tough for us to hold a number of seats and win a number of seats. There are seats like Bradfield, for example, that before everyone was saying is basically gone to the Teal. I'm pretty sure it's coming back to us. So let's just wait for the figures to come in for this week and next week, and before we get a final count of where the numbers are at. But it's not a great night for the party. So I admit that.
James, you're in Queensland, your house is on fire. You're defending Longman, Leichhardt, Ford, Dixon, Petrie, Bowman.
And what I'm saying is wait for the sorry to interrupt. I'm waiting for the pre-poll figures to come in for these seats, and then we can have a frank discussion about where we ended up in Queensland. But it's not.
I respect you, but this is starting to sound a bit chemical army.
It's not a great night for the party. But what I've learnt in politics, having worked on many losing and the odd winning campaign, is wait for the figures to come in.
I mean, you have a job to do tonight, but we know that if I were to lean over and grab your phone, it would not say, we've got to wait for the numbers to come in.
Well, at the moment, it's my mum saying that...
don't forget the milk.
Yes, it's like...
Have you thought about going to...
And I'm going back to the farm tomorrow, and I've got to collect chicken feed, apparently.
Okay,
so
well, that's important.
life goes on.
Life goes on.
Look, what you're seeing is this was when Anthony called it, and the mood and the scene at Liberal headquarters. It's a little different to what we witnessed earlier from the Labor headquarters when that moment happened. As you can see there. So that was just seeing Anthony Green's call.
Can I make a couple of quick calls?
Yes.
I think I respect you too, James, but I think that position on Dixon's harder and harder to hold, obviously. We think we've won Bonner and we think we've won Bass. And those were really two very, very key targets for us. We thought if we were to get to a majority, we needed those two. We've been very, very focused on both of those seats for some time now, and we're really confident that we have both of those.
Did you think you'd sit here tonight and watch Peter Dutton lose his seat?
No, I thought we were a chance, and I thought Ali France in particular gave us a red-hot chance, but I thought it was 50-50 at best.
What do you put it down to?
There's a bunch of things playing out there.